And we're back. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today's story is one of the most bizarre stories I have read in the past couple of years. Now, you know, a story has to be pretty bizarre to be up there at the top from everything that's gone on in the past couple of years. And this, trust me, this is nuts. I'm going to get to it in 1 second. Before I do, guys, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. The channel's growing, the community's growing, and we're having a ton of fun here. I appreciate each and every one of you so much that have subscribed so far. I've said before, I have a goal of hitting 500 subscribers by the first day of spring, so that's about a month away. So if you guys hit the subscribe button, you can help me hit that goal and be part of an awesome little community we got going here. I love the comments. You guys keep them coming. If you like my videos, leave me a thumbs up. Like I said, comment, share the video, turn the notification bell on so you know when I make new videos. Got some cool stuff coming down the road here. So, all right, so let's jump right into this. And I'm going to tell you real quick, and I've said it in a few of my other videos. I can really, so I'm in recovery now. I've been clean and sober for over 6 years. So I can speak on this from experience. Not to brag at all, but you know, I was a homeless gutter junkie. There's not a drug on this world that I haven't tried, that I didn't abuse. You know, 2 decades of my life was wasted on that, being homeless and in and out of detoxes and rehabs and sober living environments, and getting kicked out of here and there, and want my family and friends wanted nothing to do with me, and just a terrible, miserable existence. I made it out alive, which is more than I can say for a lot of people I know that aren't here anymore, that overdosed and died, that are spending the rest of their lives in prisons for crimes committed because of these drugs that this college professor recreationally uses. This is crazy. So let me read this about that. Let me read this. Columbia University professor, admitted heroin user, says legalization of all drugs is a fundamental right. So this college professor, and it says that right down below that, this is about our liberty, says Dr. Carl Hart. Now, Anthony Brian Logan, ABL, he's got a great YouTube channel. If you haven't checked him out, I highly recommend you go check him out. He did a story about this, and I could not believe, and he covered it really well. Apparently, he has an uncle that was, he lived with when he was younger, that was, you know, a pretty bad junkie, and so he's seen what this does firsthand. He's known, ABL covered it very well. So if you want to go check that out, I highly recommend it. So this guy is a college professor, Dr. Carl Hart, at Columbia University, an Ivy League school. People pay thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars to go to college to have this guy teach them. Think about that for a minute. And heroin isn't, that's not it. We're going to read this story. Before we do, I'm just going to read a little clip from a different article that I'm going to read from, go over some stats real quick. So right here, it says the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, on the other hand, says heroin. All right, so actually, let me start at the top here. All right, so it says heroin is just another opioid, no more or less scary than other drugs, he told Columbia Magazine. So this was an interview he was given with Columbia Magazine, Dr. Carl Hart, which is published by the university's Office of Alumni and Development. All right, so he says it's just another opioid, no more or less scary than other drugs. Now, that's the biggest line of horse shit that I've ever heard in my life. So right below that, it says the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, on the other hand, says heroin-involved overdoses in the U.S. increased from 3,036 in 2010 to 14,996 in 2018. Although deaths in 2018 were slightly lower than 2017. More than 115,000 Americans died from heroin-linked overdoses between 1999 and 2018. And that number now, I guarantee if you look in 2019, 2020, 2021, that number is exploding. I mean, I live in a state where there's no real big cities. The biggest city here is not, 100, 150,000 people. It's not a big city at all. It's a very small city. But there are hundreds of overdose deaths in this small city every year. I know so many people just this past year that have died of heroin overdose. And what it is, it's the fentanyl that they package in with the heroin. They mix it all together. It's the deadly mix. So you're buying this stuff off the street. You don't know what it's being mixed with. Anyway, I digress. And then right below that it says Columbia's drug policy prohibits students and faculty from using or possessing illegal drugs on school property within a university workplace or during university activities. The policy defines a university workplace as any site at which employees perform work for the university, whether or not such site is owned by Columbia University. So it defines the workplace as any site which the employees perform work for the university. So if this guy, it says whether or not the site is owned by Columbia. So if this guy's doing drugs in his house and he's doing schoolwork from his house, wouldn't that count as being prohibited by the school? So when I first saw the story, I'm thinking, how is this guy still a professor? How did he not get booted? Like, what is happening? So when we get into the story, you'll see exactly why. And I bet you kind of have an idea right now after what I just showed you. I mean, there's the picture right there. That's Dr. Carl Hart with the dreadlocks there. And ABL pointed out a couple things about this guy. He looks kind of unkempt. If you look real close, you can see a few things that it looks like, maybe he's letting himself go a little. And, you know, maybe that's just this guy's regular look. But, I mean, listen, I can tell you from being homeless, you start to let things go. There's a lot of things when you don't care about when you're more focused on drugs. So, all right, so I'm going to pull up an article real quick, and we're going to just skim through that. All right, so Columbia professor. I do heroin regularly for work-life balance. All right, it says Carl Hart is a Columbia University professor of psychology and neuroscience. He's a professor of psychology and neuroscience. He chairs the psych department and has a fondness for heroin, not only as a subject of scholarly pursuit, but also as a substance for personal use. At 54, the married father of 3 has snorted small amounts of heroin for as many as 10 days in a row and enjoyed it mightily, even if, as he recalls in his new book, Drug Use for Grown-Ups, Chasing Liberty in the Land of Fear, he's experienced mild withdrawal symptoms 12 to 16 hours after the last dose. Yeah, no shit, huh? But as Hart sees it, the discomfort is a worthwhile trade-off. This guy's insane. Listen. This is absolutely insane. All right, so where I stand as far as like marijuana being legalized, I could care less about that. That's fine. I don't know anybody that has committed any major crimes from smoking weed. You know, most of the people that are in prison for weed is because they were, you know, selling pounds and pounds of it. So whatever, weed, alcohol is legal, cigarettes are legal. Those are drugs. You start talking about things like heroin, crack, cocaine, bathsalts, Molly, you're getting into a dangerous, dangerous territory. And that's what these people are advocating for. That's what this guy's advocating for. They're already legal, you know, decriminalizing drugs in places like Oregon and Seattle. And this guy's advocating for that. He clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. Maybe they can figure out ways to put people into rehabs instead of these long jail sentences, prison sentences, or something like that, which, you know, most places try to do. It's just like with the drug epidemic, there's not enough rehabs out there, I guess. But for these people to try to decriminalize these kind of... All right, let me just read on here. All right, there aren't many things that I enjoy more than a few lines by the fireplace at the end of the day, he writes, pointing out the experience leaves him refreshed and prepared to face another day. Hart, who studies the effects of psychoactive drugs on humans, finds his use of the narcotic to be as rational as my alcohol use. Like vacation, sex, and the arts, heroin is one of the tools that I use to maintain my work-life balance. Listen, keep doing heroin, buddy. You're not going to have a work-life balance because you're not going to have a job to go to. All right, like I said, speaking from experience, I was able to function in my addiction for several years when I was younger. You know, I had some pretty decent jobs. I'd always end up losing whatever job I had due to my drug use. I'd get another job. I faked it pretty good. I made it look like I was living a normal life, but eventually the drugs take over. regular people don't go out and try these things, or maybe try it once, but they don't keep doing it on a regular basis because they either know, yeah, of course it feels good. Like, of course it makes you feel great. But people either know that the ramifications of it is going to be so devastating that it's not worth it, or it's, I mean, this guy clearly has issues with drugs. If he's, because this isn't, it's not just heroin. Let me keep going. All right. His reason for coming clean about doing opiates and the like is to advocate for decriminalizing possession of recreational drugs. The book makes the case that demonization of drug use, not drugs themselves, has been a tremendous scourge on America, not least in reinforcing this country's ending structural racism. So there you go. There you have it. You got to bring racism into the story, like always happens. And do you think if Columbia University came out and said, listen, we got to let you go for this, I mean, there would be an uproar because he's a black professor. It wouldn't be because, well, we don't think that's very conducive to what we're trying to promote here at Columbia University. You know, we may think it might be giving off the wrong idea, the wrong message to our students here, but no, can't do that. Can't touch him. Ridiculous. All right. His Hart cannot be reached for comment. Hart told the Insider that he hopes to see President Biden work toward federal regulation and licensing of the use of substances that are often described as societal menaces. Well, they're described as that because they absolutely are societal menaces. I don't know. All right. And by his logic, if people are going to indulge, they should at least do it safely. All right. For instance, he told, this is so crazy and I want to say so much, but I just got to kind of walk a fine line here. All right. If you're going to use opioids, don't use alcohol as a background. The combination increases the likelihood of respiratory depression and death. Listen, heroin alone, there's a huge likelihood of death. I mean, especially for people that have never done it or just do it every once in a while. So this guy does heroin every once in a while or regularly, whatever he says he does. Regularly. He said he uses it regularly, recreational, whatever. So he goes out. I mean, clearly he doesn't have a lab where he's testing the amounts, and he goes out and buys it from people that are from drug dealers. So if he goes out and buys a bag that's half mixed with fentanyl, this guy's going to drop dead. I mean, his tolerance isn't probably as high as someone that's actually been shooting heroin for a long time in large doses. If he's snorting, taking little bumps, he's going to drop dead. That's the thing. He's not. It's frustrating. It's not just the heroin that keeps Hart centered, he claims. The professor is also. Listen to this. All right. It's not just the heroin that keeps Hart centered, he claims. The professor is also a fan of the effects brought on by MDMA, better known as Molly or ecstasy, and methamphetamine, a drug that has caused the most overdose deaths in nearly half the U.S., according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In describing MDMA, he recalled intense feelings of pleasure, gratitude, and energy. So he's doing meth, he's doing Molly, and then I'll skip a few here. Okay, he even found pleasure in snorting a version of so-called bathsalts, a synthetic caffeine that's been linked to disturbing behavior from barking to breaking into homes. So this guy's doing heroin. He's doing, yes, cocaine somewhere in there, but I didn't see that yet. Molly, bathsalts. This is a train wreck in the making. If we were to check in with this guy from a year from now, I guarantee you his life's going to be exponentially worse than it is right now. He has no idea what he's in for by doing this. And he's talking about how it feels. In his book, he recounts the effects as being euphoric, energetic, clear-headed, and highly social. Nice. Nice, with 6, 7 eyes there. Nice. Yeah, clearly that's why people get hooked on these things. But he's not focusing on any of the bad. He's not focusing on the money you spend on it. He's not focusing, when he said he was having withdrawals, those withdrawals, they get so bad. I mean, I've been laid up for weeks at a time trying to come off of things. I was trying to come off of drug Xanax, benzodiazepine, then I was a heavy benzo user for years. I was withdrawn for over a year from that. I couldn't function in society. I was in and out of psych wards. It was a nightmare. Nightmare. That's benzodiazepines is what put Dr. Jordan Peterson brought him almost to his death for the past. He disappeared from everywhere for the past couple years because he was coming off of benzos, and he said the same thing. It was the worst thing that he's ever been through. And that's the thing. Once you start taking some of these drugs, you don't just, you get to a point where you take anything put in front of you. Anything put in front of you. You turn into a garbage can. And this guy clearly is. If he's doing bath salts, that's bad news. Let's see. All right, so nice. In fact, he writes about wanting to take the drug ahead of some awful required social events, such as academic reception. All right, so he wants to take it before he goes and does some social event. That's bad when you're starting getting triggers where you want to. So it gets to a point where you want to take these drugs if you feel bad about something, if you're nervous about something, if you feel good about something, if you win something, if you lose something. You start making excuses for, wow, this would be a good time to, do this little bump or shoot this. This would be a good time for that. This would be a good time for that. I feel like that'd be a good time for that. That's how it goes. All right. It says, while many recreational drug enthusiasts, there's not a lot of recreational drug enthusiasts. I agree that, people smoke weed recreationally. Molly, I know there's people that just do Molly every once in a while when they go out partying. Of course, there's people that just do cocaine here and there. But when you start doing bath salts and meth and heroin, there's no recreational use to that. While recreational drug enthusiasts may salute Hart, the medical and addiction community may find the professor's utopian approach less than ideal. According to the CDC in 2018, nearly 15,000 people died from drug overdoses involving heroin. All right, so we all went over that. Already went over that. So, it says the last sentence on here says, you can live your life as you choose, he told the Insider, and it's nobody's business, as long as you do not interfere with anybody else doing the same. Okay. So, that's insane for this guy to be advocating for that. It's scary. He doesn't. So what he's doing is he's pointing out how it feels. It feels good. It gets him ready for this. It gets rid of his social anxiety. He's not talking about, well, the next bag is the one that could kill him. He's not talking about when he goes to get his next bag. Cop could be driving by, see it, and all of a sudden he gets arrested for possession. Oh, that's why he wants to decriminalize it. Listen, you decriminalize this, and like I said, there's got to be ways to try instead of. So if this guy gets arrested for it, maybe a better thing would be to try to find him in rehab than to stick him in, give him a jail sentence or a prison sentence, because from what I know, he doesn't have a long criminal record. But when you start, look at Seattle, look at Portland. These places let people pretty much run free and do what they want. And they're just turning, look at San Francisco, look at Los Angeles. I'm not saying I don't know if they have it decriminalized or not. The majority of the Skid Row in Los Angeles, the San Francisco homeless people everywhere, the homeless population in the city that I live in is huge. And it's winter here. It's freezing cold up in the Northeast. And the majority of these people out there are homeless because of drug addiction. It takes over their life. They can't work. They can't function. They can't keep a home. I know a lot of people that have got some kind of help with housing. They get housing. They get kicked out of the house due to their drug use. They get another apartment somewhere. They get kicked out of that due to their drug use. It's a revolving door. It's a circle of hell. It's a circle of hell. It's literally what it is. It's just a roller coaster of hell. And you don't get off it until you clean up your act. You end up in prison or you end up dead. And I don't know. I highly disagree with this guy. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think this guy's onto something? Do you think he should be a college professor? I can't even believe the university isn't like, listen, buddy, this is not what we're promoting here. But I just couldn't believe this story. Just speaking from my experience, it's scary. It's scary. Maybe this guy should look for help to not have to do those drugs, to, if he's anxious before a social event, not to have to want to go do a line of heroin or something like. But I digress. All right, guys. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you like the video, leave me a thumbs up. And Like I said, the world's clearly gone crazy out there. Just take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Till next time, peace.